depressed, for every 99 who are not, or who say they are not, who is to say that the depressed person is right and the 99 wrong, that they are deceiving themselves? Even if this were true, what good would it do to undeceive the 99 who have diverted themselves with a busy round of work and play and so imagine themselves happy? The argument is abstract and useless. On the other hand, it is an undeniable fact that more people than ever are depressed nowadays. At last count, the symptom of depression outnumbered all other symptoms put together. What if the proportion of undepressed to depressed people changes from 99 to 1 to 50-50? Perhaps the argument will become less abstract. At any rate, and regardless of who was or was not demented, something odd did happen to him on the golf course. It happened, in fact, on the day after he had received the local Rotary's Man of the Year award for service to the community. He and his partner, Dr. Vance Battle, were 1 down and 2 to go in the foursome. Number 17 was a par 5 medium-long dogleg with a good view of Sourwood Mountain, curving past a pond and a low ridge of red maples which in the brilliant sunlight looked like a tongue of fire searing the cool green fairway. It was not a difficult hole. Par golf required only that you hit 2 fair woods to clear the point of the ridge for an easy straightaway pitch to the green. His drive was well hit and went high in a strong following wind. It carried a good 300 yards. His partner gave him a wink. The other players looked at each other. Though the ridge and the pond lay between him and the green, he decided to go for the flag. The instant he hit the ball with the 3-wood, he knew it was all right. It drew slightly, enough to give the distance and to grab and hold the sloping green. Without seeing the ball, he knew he had a putt for an eagle. His partner, Dr. Vance Battle, who sat in the cart on the outside of the dogleg waiting for his 3rd shot, was watching. Vance looked at the green, looked back at him, held his hands apart as if he were measuring a fish, cocked his head, winked again, and, though it could not be heard, gave his cluck. He looked down at the glossy brown club head. We used to call this club a spoon, he thought, not a 3-wood. What do you think? He once asked an ancient black caddy at Sea Island. That's a spoon shot, the caddy said with a certain emphasis and a rising cadence, and handed him the club with the complex but clear sense of what a spoon could do. Now you choose a numbered club from the back of an electric cart. It was at that moment that he paused for several seconds, wood still held in both hands, fingers overlapped, and seemed to listen for something. He gazed up at the round, one-eyed mountain, which seemed to gaze back with an ironical expression. Certain quasi-sensory symptoms, as one doctor explained later, began to manifest themselves. There was a slight, not unpleasant twisting sensation in his head. A pied weed at the edge of the rough gave off a faint but acrid smell which rose in his nostrils. The bright October sunlight went dark as an eclipse. The scene before his eyes seemed to change. It was not really a hallucination, he learned from another doctor, but an association response, such as might be provoked by a lesion in the frontal lobe of the brain, the seat of memory. The doctors did not agree on the nature of his illness, or even if he had an illness. Instead of the immaculate emerald fairway curving between the scarlet and gold hillsides of the Appalachians, he seemed to see something else. It was a scene from his youth, so insignificant a recollection that he had no reason to remember it then, let alone now, 30 years later. Yet he seemed to see every detail as clearly as if the scene lay before him. Again, the explanation of the neurologist was altogether reasonable. The brain registers and records every sensation, sight, and sound, and smell it has ever received. If the neurons where such information is stored happen to be stimulated, jostled, pressed upon, any memory can be recaptured. Nothing is really forgotten. The smell of chalk dust on the first day of school, the feel of hot corduroy on your legs, the shape of the scab on the back of your hand is still there if you have the means of getting at it. Instead of the brilliant autumn postcard Carolina mountains, he seemed to see a weedy stretch of railroad right-of-way in a small Mississippi town. It wasn't even part of the right-of-way, but no more than a wedge-shaped salient of weeds angling off between the railroad tracks and the backyards of Negro cabins. It was shaped like a bent triangle, the bend formed by the curve of tracks. Perhaps it was owned by the railroad, or perhaps by the utility company, because in one corner there was a small fenced and locked enclosure which contained an even smaller metal hut. Or perhaps it was owned by the city, because at the end of this narrow vista